Welcome to Out of the Overflow, a channel where we're going to read, review, and recommend good Christian material to you. I'm Miss Dorothy, and I'll be your host as we journey into the world of Christian literature. I'm here at the bookstore at Lighthouse Baptist Church in Winchester, Virginia. Here, the shelves are stocked with books that we hope will help you in your everyday Christian life. Books that will edify you, encourage you, and motivate you as you live out your life for Christ. Each episode, we're going to bring along a special guest, someone who's going to choose one of the books off these shelves, take it home, read it, and come back and talk to us about it. Someone who can share their insights and how the books affected their personal lives. Together, we're going to explore the profound impact that Christian literature can have on our faith, our understanding of God's Word, and our walk with Christ. So whether you're seeking to expand your reading list, searching for spiritual nourishment, or simply looking for a good book to curl up with on a rainy day, Out of the Overflow is the channel for you. And today we have our very first guest, Mrs. Rebekah Shope is here joining us today. Mrs. Shope recently chose a book off this shelf, and she's going to share her insights with us. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So you recently read this book, The Circle Maker by Mark Batterson.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'd like is if you wouldn't mind to tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what caused you to choose this book.
I chose the book because of my husband. And yes, we do have it in our bookstore. My husband's the pastor of Lighthouse Baptist Church that houses The Overflow, houses this source for resources that we can give to people in our church and other people that are looking for truth. And we were traveling to a conference, the Rest Conference down south, and he likes Pastor Mark Batterson, the author of this book, and he started playing the audiobook. And each time he has played him in the past, anytime he plays Mark Batterson, I kind of perk up because he's a phenomenal writer. And he's very transparent about his life and what God has done in his life and in his church, National Community Church in DC. So we just started listening to it. We listened to it on the way down and on the way back. And I told him, we've got to buy that book. We've got to get it, which he already had a copy, a physical copy. And then we decided to get a copy for all of our teachers that work in both our daycare and in our academy.
Now, literature means a lot to you.
Yes.
You are an English teacher.
I am an English teacher.
So when you get a hold of a book, it gets a hold of you.
Yes.
So in what way did The Circle Maker initially get a hold of you?
From the first word. When he starts talking about Honi, which begins, I think, on the very first page. And this was an individual that Mark Batterson had heard about or read about. And this is a man from a century before Christ even comes on the scene. Christ isn't even born yet. And it is a man that had great faith in God. And there was an incredible drought in his country. And he decides that he is going to physically draw a circle in the sand. When he draws that circle, he gets inside of it. And this is what he said. I wanted to read an excerpt from it from page 12 of the book. He prays 3 prayers. But it says, after what seemed like hours, but had only been seconds, Honi stood inside the circle he had drawn. Then he dropped to his knees and raised his hands to heaven. With the authority of the prophet Elijah, who called down fire from heaven, Honi called down rain. And this is what he says. Lord of the universe, I swear before your great name that I will not move from this circle until you have shown mercy upon your children. The word sent a shudder down the spines of all who were within earshot that day. Then it happened. As his prayer ascended to the heavens, raindrops descended to the earth.
Wow.
An audible gasp swept across the thousands of congregants who had encircled Honi. Still kneeling within the circle, he lifts his voice again with sounds of celebration, and he prays again. Not for such rain have I prayed, but for rain that will fill cisterns, pits, and caverns. The sprinkle turned into such a torrential downpour that eyewitnesses said no raindrops was smaller than an egg in size. It rained so heavily and so steadily that the people had to flee to the Temple Mount to escape the flash floods. And then he prays once more. Not for such rain have I prayed, but for rain of your favor, blessing, and graciousness. And they said after that, it was just a steady rain. And people's faith was increased because of what this man, he literally, as we draw a line in the sand, he drew a circle in the sand.
So it's more than just that he was praying for rain.
Yes.
I mean, what came out of it was more than just rain.
He was proving his faith in God.
Right. So yes, and that's, I mean, that's remarkable that he had the faith to stand in front of everyone and
Yes.
believe it was going to happen.
And literally draw a line in the sand.
And
His
draw a
was
line in the
circle.
sand, which is really amazing. So it sounds like the book provides valuable insights into the art of prayer.
Yes, it does.
Okay. So would you say that this is a book, you said that this was taken from someone who believed this even before Christ?
Yes, a century before.
So how would you apply that to today?
Because he applies it in his own life. He teaches you how to be a circle maker. That's why it's called the Circle Maker. And he goes into what happened in his own personal life. He had tried to plant a church in northern Chicago, and it failed. And he even explains, so listen, just because you draw a circle in the sand, you draw a circle in your own life, it doesn't mean that, yes, that's going to get answered.
Right.
It may not be God's will.
Exactly. So it's not praying for a yes.
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 And he even says that in the book. It could be the wait.
Right.
Could be no.
Right.
But it fails in northern Chicago. So he had this great burden for DC, which is, I mean, Capitol Hill.
Right.
I mean, everything is so incredibly expensive there. But it was on his heart. And so he says, and I know I'm reading a bit from the book, but this was so good. On page 18, he says, and he literally prays a circle on Capitol Hill. Starting at the front door of our row house on Capitol Hill, I walked east on F Street and turned south on 8th Street. I crossed East Capitol Hill, the street that bisects the northeast and southeast quadrants of the city, and turned west on the Main Street southeast. I then completed the circle, which was actually more of a square, by heading north on South Capitol Street. I paused to pray in front of the Capitol for a few minutes. Then I completed the 4.7-mile circle by taking a right turn at Union Station and heading home. I mean, he plots it out.
So he literally took his body,
yes,
and
he
walked a circle around.
And he talks about it even being like the way the Israelites had walked around Jericho. And of course, the walls fell down. But he said that prayer circle had taken nearly 3 hours to complete because my prayer pace is slower than my normal pace. But God has been answering that 3-hour prayer for the past 15 years.
That's incredible.
It is.
So let's say we're talking to a listener who, hasn't even given this book consideration.
Yeah.
What would your advice be to them right at this point in time in regards to this book?
I want this book to work for everyone. But my first piece of advice would be, you have to know the true circle, the answer to the circle maker. We're the circle makers. We decide to pray this in our lives. But if they have not given their heart over to Jesus Christ, he's the one that's going to answer these prayers.
Right.
It's not just, well, I prayed this circle in my life. I'm expecting something to happen. There's more to it than that. So my first piece of advice would be, if you've never turned your life over to Jesus Christ, realizing he's the only way, come talk to us. Come to the Overflow. Come to Lighthouse Baptist Church. If you're in the area, if you're not, call us. We'd be happy to talk to you. Next step besides that, if you are a believer in Jesus Christ, it's not just reading a book. This book is meant to put into practice.
Right.
You have to do something with it. And he explains how to do that in these pages, how it's been successful for others. So it is a how-to book, and it's a book of hope.
Do you think that there's any kind of age limit to this book, or
I
age
would
barriers?
Say, and I deal a lot with, of course, recommending books even with younger children, and you do as well, because of the field that we're in, in trying to get good literature into their hands. I would say even an elementary child could read this. This is not written towards very lofty language. It's easy to understand. I would say even 4th grade and above.
Oh, that's really good to know. Well, thank you, Becky, for being with us today.
Like I said, thank you for having me. It was
absolutely great. This book sounds incredible, and I hope that our listeners and our viewers will pick one up. And if you are interested in furthering your Bible study time, if you're interested in, building your prayer life, The Circle Maker does sound like it would be a great book for you. If you're interested in the book, you can stop by here at Lighthouse Baptist Church in Winchester. We have it here in the Overflow, or you can click on the link below where it will direct you to where you can purchase the book online. And if there's anything we can do here for you at Lighthouse Baptist Church, please reach out to us. But that's it for today's episode of Out of the Overflow. I hope that you'll be with us next time we get together. We'll have another book pulled off this shelf and someone who will come and share their thoughts with us. Just remember that we are here to recommend good Christian material to you. And until we see you again, Keep reading, keep pointing people to Jesus, and we'll see you soon. Bye.